Bill Polian is our very own GM here at ESPN, and he's nice enough to join us now on the show. Bill, it's Michael and Don. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, fellas. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We've been looking at all the problems with the NFL and what the coaches are doing with these players and organizations. Does a GM have a different view of this? I mean, does a GM just think, I've got to win, or does he think about the type of guy that he has?
Well, he does think about the type of guy that he has, but I think Dave Gettleman of the Carolina Panthers put it best yesterday. At present, there's no rule book, there's no guidebook to tell you what to do, and you do have to win. I feel awfully sorry for the coaches and the general managers who are involved in this because, let's use Ray Rice as an example. He was the exemplar of everything that was good about the NFL. He was a player that everybody pointed to and said, why aren't you all like Ray Rice? And then this terrible incident takes place, and he becomes, in the eyes of some, public enemy number one. Well, that wasn't the case. It was a terrible mistake, but you have to deal with the fallout. And that's why there is a personal conduct policy. Way back in 1995, Commissioner Tagliabue and Gene Upshaw got together, and they said, I may be wrong on the year on that, but it's in the 90s anyway. They got together and said, we need to have a personal conduct policy because there are some things that players are doing that we need to discipline. Together, they put it in place. And it's been in place for a long time, and by and large, it's worked. And it's a combination of discipline and education. Well, now we're in 2014. The world has changed as dramatically as any time in my lifetime with social media at all. And we haven't changed the personal conduct policy at all. And we find right now that DUI and domestic violence are the crimes that NFL players are most arrested for, most charged with, most have to deal with the legal system. So we got to do something about that. It means education, and it means a very clear rule book as to what GMs and coaches should do. And, in fact, the league ought to take that out of their hands. That's why you have a league-wide personal conduct policy anyway. It's not been done. I suspect they're working on that right now. In fact, I know they are at the union level. And so we'll get something soon. But this is a very, very unfortunate situation. And to place coaches and GMs who have to win, whose jobs depend on that in this kind of situation, is not fair to them. It should be handled by the league.
Now, you had mentioned that the personal conduct policy somewhat 20 years ago was put in there and never really changed and dealt with. Why do you think that was? Because it's not like some of these things have just happened, Bill. I mean, we've seen just under Roger Goodell's tenure over since 2006 that we've seen just an amazing amount of arrests. So why do you think the NFL didn't make the necessary changes before it exploded like it did the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think, you labor negotiations get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
The lockout was a big issue. The referees lockout was a big issue. The replacement officials were a big issue. Television negotiations were a big issue. Marketing strategies, the wiring of stadiums, all those kinds of things, where to hold the draft. Those kinds of revenue-driving issues get in the way, and you kind of lose sight of what's going on the field. And I think a lot of that has taken place. And in many ways, this is probably a good thing because it will focus people back on what's really important, which is the kind of people and the kind of product that we put on the field. That's what drives the train.
Let me throw this at you, Bill, because I brought this point up previously. This is a sport of aggression. These guys have been the best their entire life. They have not been told no much in their entire life. They've been protected, as a matter of fact. And when they got in trouble in college, a lot of them had it just go away. And a lot of these things that are happening are acts of aggression. Is it hard for a football player to shut it off and become just an everyday Joe when he's not around the team and on the field?
No, it's not. Some of the nicest, kindest people that I know are ferocious people on the field, but everything else you said was correct. And that's why a education program starting from day one of arrival in the National Football League, and not something that's window dressing, not an event that the media could cover,
right.
but consistent week in and week out education is what is needed with young players. And we can start symbolically by doing away with the red carpet and the kind of celebrity treatment that are given to draft choices who haven't done a thing in the National Football League. Let's start with that, and let's go from there. And hopefully with education, with experience, without the hard knocks that many of the veteran players have gone through and the many hard lessons that they learned, like Chicago's receiver, at the end they'll come out as good and solid citizens. But we need to help them. And part of that is discipline. When you step out of line, you have to know that discipline is coming, and you have to know what is coming, and you have to know what the consequences are, and you got to accept the consequences. Tony Dungy and I, in speaking yesterday, reminded me that every year we would tell our players, among other things, you don't assault people, you don't hit women, you don't hit children, you don't use drugs, and if you do, here are the consequences. We made it very clear, and we acted before the league office did. And after one or two incidents, they learned that we meant business. One thing, as Herm Edwards said to me this morning, one thing football players know how to do is follow rules. And if you lay it out there for them, and it's clear and concise and transparent, they'll do it. But you got to help educate them as well, because all of the things that you said about their youth, starting from sixth grade on, is that essentially they're in a bubble, and they don't know how to deal with the real world. So we have to help them.